Hello, I am Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be reviewing the March 31st, which is today, to April 1st Godfest that is occurring for North America. So, basically, Godfest now follow this format of disclosed rolling rates, 20 6-star Godfest exclusives being available, as well as specific Pantheon cards at the same time. So, the rolling rates may or may not vary over time. Like, for the most part, they are generally 0.6% chance for a 6-star Godfest exclusive. Sometimes it's been 1. Again, just need to check the individual rates on each Godfest to see if there are enhanced chances to gain something useful and meaningful. However, this Godfest is unfortunately a bit lackluster. Like, it does not have a very strong lineup, so to speak. A lot of the key cards are missing, but I guess on the bright side, all the cards that were not featured last time are at least recycled back into the rotation. However, again, a lot of the cards that were not featured last time are a bit lackluster, so we do have a less promising Godfester overall. And taking into account the North America stream that happened last night, no big announcement was really made. We don't have like a special collab or seasonal event coming back anytime soon, but even so, I still wouldn't necessarily recommend rolling in this Godfest. However, just because this Godfest may not be the greatest thing available overall, if it's the best thing for your monster box, it's still worth rolling because, again, this is all about your own individual needs. So from this chart here, you can see which 20 are available and then which 11 are not, because that's currently what we have. We have 31 6-star Godfest exclusives. And at least this time, everyone got recycled back in because Amino was actually missing from Godfest for 3 times in a row. So now at least he's back into the rotation, but unfortunately this one is not as effective overall. So there are some changes that occurred for my ranking system for 6-star Godfest exclusives. Most notably is Kaede jumping up from C to S because of her new evolution. Cammy goes from S to A, and then Raijin goes from C to B. And this is basically taking into account the new evolutions for those cards. There is a new evolution for Fujin, but again, it still makes them better, so they can't really move, to be fair. So I'm going to explain all the changes, but if we do look at the overall rankings for this Godfest, like you can see, like most of the S tier or stronger cards are actually absent. So it makes it a little more challenging to justify rolling in, unfortunately. So why is Kaede so exciting and so powerful? So in a previous video I did for first impressions, Kaede basically got a new evolution which enables them to function in 2 distinct ways. She can function as a traditional leader, or she can function as a swipe, no Skyfall farming leader. So her active skill is still the same. It's still 3 hearts, 3 wood, 1 turn haste, 7 turn cooldown, but her leader skill has been dramatically changed. So her leader skill now provides you with 10 times damage if you leave 6 or less orbs on the board while there's a no Skyfall clause, so you can obviously see how much are left over. And then you get 2.25 times on top of that if you match 2 wood combos, along with a damage mitigation component. So this essentially amounts to a 25 times attack leader and a sizable damage, 25% damage reduction. However, when you pair with double Kaede, you have 625 times attack and 43.75% damage reduction. So this is definitely more than enough damage to pound your way through basically all of the current content available at this point in time, as well as having a nice defensive component. But the main drawback is that the defensive multiplier component is tied to matching 2 wood combos. So it can somewhat prevent stalling because you need wood combos to actually deal damage. And then if you're using them to stall to get the damage mitigation component, that's a little problematic. It's a little problematic. Thank you. It is a little problematic. So this is going to be the biggest hurdle for Kaede to overcome, is that they are going to have somewhat inconsistencies because they are reasonably orb hungry. However, when you are able to combo the board as well as match 2 wood combos, everything is going to die. But in that same train of thought, if you don't have 2 wood combos, you can still achieve 100 times damage, which is still reasonable. Like, you could stack TPAs because Kaede naturally has 2. You could also stack 7 combo awakenings, or maybe a mixture of both. And if you can basically max combo the board while kind of somewhat blobbing the combos to ensure there's at least 6 or less orbs remaining, you have 100 times damage. So that is a reasonably high multiplier. Like, you still could pound your way through a lot of content. So That is useful, but again, you're not going to have that damage reduction component. Like, if you compare her to Edward, it's not even close to being in the same league. Yes, Kaede can spike significantly higher, but Edward has that passive damage reduction shield all the time, so to speak, whereas Kaede is very conditional by comparison. So that is going to be her biggest hurdle, and you are going to want to basically bring subs that have obviously high health, high recovery, so you can actually tank these hits when you don't have your health multiplier, when you don't have your damage mitigation multiplier in place. So obviously, as a traditional leader, she definitely can clear lots of content. It'll be quite exciting. But of course, like basically any other good leader nowadays, it's going to be quite 6-star Godfest exclusive or rare collab card heavy at the same time. Now, with that being said, Kaede can also function as a no Skyfall swipe farming leader. So at this point in time, we obviously have Liu Bei, we have Brachydios, we can even use Dark Metatron to kind of set up like a Zeus Dios style team in which you pop Zeus Dios, full board of Wood Orbs, swipe things that are dead. Now, the issue of Liu Bei is there are Skyfalls, so obviously Skyfalls slow down your run, your clear times are going to be much longer, unfortunately. Furthermore, you need to go reincarnate Liu Bei to get a higher multiplier, but then when you do that, you get that light sub-attribute, and then you can run into issues with Skyfalling Light on a light absorb spawn. Not very common, of course, but it still can be problematic. Now, you can use Dark Metatron, but then you have to be conscious of your health. You have to be below 80% health, so it takes a bit of more micromanagement. Zeus Dios, you have to be injured. Brachydios just doesn't have, well, Brachydios is actually reasonable, but they're vulnerable to binds. So basically, like all the current forms and setups have some sort of innate weakness, but Kaede doesn't necessarily have that weakness, so to speak, because Kaede is bind immune, has 100 times damage when you swipe, and that's wonderful, and no sub-attributes, so there's no chance of healing from a different color Skyfall. So it can be possibly the most efficient wood-row farming leader we could have in the game. So that's another nice thing you can have. Let's say you have absolutely no subs to use her as a traditional leader. You have a great swipe farming team that's going to be very fast and very efficient. And now we come to Fujin. So Fujin is still S, but I do want to like kind of highlight the fact that they are getting a new evolution that makes them quite powerful. So they can become a much stronger sub and a modest leader. So basically, Fujin has historically always been used as an inherit. We basically stick on Fujin on any valuable card in our team, basically pop that active and deal with the damage absorption spawns. Like, you could still use Fujin as a sub, but a single 7 combo and just time extends and not much else is kind of like, well, you do have better options possibly. So it was harder to justify using regular Fujin as a sub. But with Fujin's new evolution, they're kind of becoming somewhat similar to Beach Fujin in that they have double 7 combo awakening, so now they actually have a sizable damage output potential, and that's going to make them have the potential to actually be used as a sub more often, like in case like you don't want to wait extra turns, because when you inherit a card you have to obviously charge them up, it takes longer for stalling. But if you use Fujin as a straight sub, it's going to solve a lot of those problems, and it's going to be quite worthwhile to run, especially if you know you're going to encounter those damage absorption spawns. Like, for example, if you're playing through 3-player arena, I'm just going to blow my nose really quick. You play through 3-player arena, the biggest hurdle is actually having Fujin ready for Sopdet, Parvati, and Vishnu. But now that you can use Fujin very efficiently as a sub, this is going to obviously lessen the amount of stalling you need to do, because in 3-player co-op, you have to stall 3 times longer, because everyone has to go through a turn to actually charge up. So this is exciting. Now, this is assuming that they're using their no sub-attribute form, so they get the double 7 combo. Her other form will only have 1 7 combo awakening, but you do get bind immunity and a little bit of a stronger leader skill. It's 81 times attack, 4 times recovery, and 43.75% damage reduction for attackers when hitting 6 or more combos. So that's actually a reasonable multiplier if you can actually populate your team with attackers, because you have decent damage, you have great recovery, and you're basically always going to have that damage reduction component, because, well, hitting 6 combos is not exactly hard. So it can make for a modest leader for like newer players, and then you can transition her into a great sub when you actually roll a stronger lead. Now we come to Cammy. So some people are thinking like, well, Cammy is still great, and Cammy is still strong, but she's just not as overwhelming. She's not really fulfilling as many niches, so to speak, because she has to be above 80% health. So that does dampen her level of potency when playing through longer content or content where their spawns are more unpredictable or randomized. So because of that, it's a little harder to use Cammy in those traditional senses, but you can use her for shorter dungeons where you can plan out active skills very efficiently. But the main problem is, like, we do have now more options for dark follow-up attack. Her leader skill is still strong, but Yogg is still stronger overall because Yogg has a better sub pool. Yes, he needs double light combos, but Yogg has a much stronger active skill as well as a better sub pool to draw from because he can access like variants for skill boost. He can use pixel clouds, pixel units. Like, the pixel options for Yogg are stronger, and technically when Cammy has a follow-up attack and both leaders have a follow-up attack, you're kind of wasting one of those awakenings, and Cammy already has very few awakenings, so you're kind of basically almost negating the benefits of the second Cammy on your team. So like, it's just small things that are kind of chipping away at her overall viability. Like, Cosmic Trinity Yogg teams are still much more efficient overall, so Yogg is usually a better option for the most part, and again, he has a better base active skill. And now we come to Raijin. So Raijin is going to receive a new split evolution that will either give them Guard Break and a third TPA, or Bind Immunity and a modest leader skill. So Raijin gives a full board changer that produces all 6 elements while unlocking orbs at the same time. So you do have some level of consistency with that orb changer. You don't have to worry about locked orbs. So you have to think, well, where can we use them as a sub or even as an inherit? Well, as an inherit, it's kind of like, well, I need to actually remove locked orb status, so yes, that works. But again, we have lots of options for that, so we need to think, can they actually shine as a sub? So if you take her guard break form with triple TPA, you have at least a guard breaking option, which can be useful in certain scenarios. Like, if you need to punch through a high defense spawn, you don't have a burst that can be charged up in time, or you just don't even have a burst, having a guard break option can be a reasonable solution, so it can work out. But the main issue is you only have TPAs, you don't have 7 combos, so your overall damage output is going to be lower because you have to go out of your way to match those TPAs. And in all honesty, I would much rather use Sharius Roots as a guard breaking option than Raijin, because A, Sharius Roots has a dark sub attribute, so you're helping cover extra colors for certain teams like, say, Edward, as well as having double killers. He has God and Dragon, so he's doing very high damage against very popular and very common spawns, and you don't have to worry about compromising your board matching pattern because you don't have to worry about matching that TPA. Like, say you had 6 light orbs, do you go for the TPA or go for 2 light combos? You don't have to make that decision when you play Sharius Roots. So I still feel that Sharius Roots is a better option. So Raijin's not really solving or providing more value overall unless you really needed that orb unlock, but again, it's still stronger than it was before. So as with every Godfest, the Pantheons and 5-star Godfest exclusives that had highlighted rates are obviously losing those highlighted rates because they need to make space for the 6-star Godfest exclusives, and that can obviously raise the conundrum of like, well, I want to get those Pantheon cards. Do I roll outside of Godfest? The answer is really no, because you still, for the most part, 6-star Godfest exclusives are the strongest option, and during Godfest you can roll both of them instead of just one of them. Like, why not give yourself more chances for the better cards? Now, in terms of featured notable cards, I'm just kind of going based on the displayed rolling rates as their and the Gung Ho Facebook page. Basically, we have the Celtic series, Greco-Romans, and the former 5-star Godfest exclusives. So basically, Aphie gives 3/7 combos, while Lu from the Celtic series is a Fujin style active with no haste. You do have Uranus and Cronus for another 7/7 combo awakening card. And then we obviously have like Saria, and well, Saria really is kind of the better of the 5-star Godfest exclusive features. So like, it is an okay roster. Like, there's at least there's at least a chance of Fujin, but unfortunately Fujin is actually absent from this Godfest. So you can roll the lesser Fujin, but you can't roll the actual Fujin. Again, more problems of why this Godfest is not the greatest. Now, this section is kind of something I say every time, is that collabs are becoming the new future for PAD. Basically, for the most part, the most powerful and exotic cards now available come in the form of rare collab cards. So this obviously places a lot of stress on your Magic Stones because, well, I want to roll Godfest, but I also want to have these collab cards. So it can be a lot more problematic, especially for newer players. Like, for someone like myself who never rolled collabs before, obviously getting those cards for the first time is more meaningful, but at the same time, I've also rolled Godfest more often because I've been playing longer and only rolled in Godfest. So I do have most of the Pantheon Rare Machine cards, at least the older ones. So like, my monster box has enough depth and diversity, but a newer player won't be having that depth and diversity. And for the most part, collab cards tend to be more niche and situational overall. So you usually want to build up a stronger monster box foundation before you start chasing those niche collab cards, unless you obviously have tons of Magic Stones or you IAP. But again, with that being said, it's all up to your own personal preference and what you want, what the direction you want to take your monster box. So overall, like, I feel like this Godfest is not that great, mostly because like they are basically excluding many of the stronger cards, because basically every Godfest, which is every 2 weeks or so, you're basically cycling in and out possibly 11 6-star Godfest exclusives at a time. So there will be instances where you'll have amazing Godfests and then those where you have lackluster ones. So with all that being said, I'm still going to roll my free roll that every player is going to get above rank 50. I'll do that on my stream, which is soon, as well as upload that video to YouTube, and hopefully I get something magical. So overall, I wish you all the best of luck in your own pad adventures. Happy Easter and happy puzzling.